right, folks, and welcome into the Smite Challenger Circuit. It's the Road to Worlds, baby. You got Dimes, you got Blur. Blur, It's been a little bit since Salts, but we're back at it now with the Smite Challenger Circuit. You had the pleasure of casting the very first one here in the Road to Worlds.
I did. It was a lot of fun. We had a best of 3 matchup going all 3 games. We saw both dualities of a long sort of meticulous game where there's a lot of EU farming. We then saw the other extreme, which is the NA. We're going to hit things hard and fast and finish the game in 25 minutes. So whether or not Niflheim Wargs and Yomi Tanuki go for either one of those sides, it's a coin flip, but I'm excited to find out what they bring to the table.
Well, we are still in Europe here. Let's get straight into picks and bans here for the second set of the day in the Smite Challenger Circuit. And one thing I do want to mention here, Blur, the last time we saw these two teams was in the Smite Challenger Circuit gauntlet, right? Yomi Tanuki, 3-1, ends up coming out on top. The Niflheim Wargs with a 2-0 spin as well. So Yomi Tanuki and Niflheim Wargs 1-2 right there in the bracket. So we have sort of a heavyweight matchup here this morning.
We definitely do, and bear in mind as well, going back slightly further to the summer solstice, this was sort of, everyone was like, oh, Hex Mamba was still amazing. Niflheim Wargs end up beating them out, so the Wargs definitely looking to sit up high in that sort of high-pressure situation for things. They are looking to try and battle in for that first seed position, so a lot of EU is really, really competitive right now, and hopefully, we'll see how these sort of mini metas devolve around the teams, like we saw last set, where it's like, hey, Johnny's really good on pressure, you have to ban them out, so that becomes the focus. Wargs are looking to be, I don't know, let's say Wargs play really well through Hawkk in the mid lane. They're the team that you have to start banning out those kind of gods. Already, for now, it's a lot of focus towards the ADC side for the Wargs, as Amaterasu is their first pick, and I love this. Ama, with the buffs that she was able to receive throughout the patch and things, she's now gaining bonus attack speed. She's still a super solid solo laner and transitions really, really well into the team fights.
Well, speaking of a couple of buffs, the Yomi Tanuki hovering 2 gods who also received some pretty significant changes in Pele and Raijin. And I mean, ever since the new patch has come through, we've seen Pele and Raijin being slammed. I mean, Raijin, talk me through the increased damage and the survivability of this mid lane.
So the whole point with a lot of Raijin is before they were always considered like a magical Ulra. You're dashing in, you're being aggressive, you're dumping your whole kit and then trying to survive on it. Now, by being able to reduce your cooldowns by throwing in some basic attacks, by getting a little bit more from that, by being able to get in and out of fights a bit faster with Thunder Crash, you just have the more flexibility to be able to do it more often and do it more safely. Pele, similar idea. Getting back some more of that fuel for her 3 means whenever you hit your 1, means that you can keep these fights going. So Wargs, they've gone for this very defensive kind of build-up for it. You've got Khepri now who can help weather that through that storm. Agni, who's playing from that long range, trying to match against what Pele and Raijin are doing. And I like this kind of pickup because it's still super solid gods. It's not completely counteracting the Yomi Tanukis. They still hold a little bit of initiative themselves. Now with the on-her pickup, Yomi Tanukis have got all of their damage sorted. They just need to find something that can bolster it defensively. Whereas on the other side of things, Wargs, they're still looking for some key explosive damage from the jungle, and that's what Yomi Tanuki's focus out. Rat, we saw from Johnny, has the insane potential to do so. The Susanoo, we've seen that time and time again, can burst down many gods 100-0 so fast.
If you're looking at the Yomi Tanuki and you're thinking, okay, we need ourselves a solo laner, get my question answered right here as Sun Wukong's being hovered. One more tanky style god in your support, right? Ares banned out. Who's kind of the next in line to take up that role?
So my first thoughts is I'm thinking Terra, I'm thinking Athena. The first 2 sort of major calls that I'm looking at, because both of those have very good teamfight CC, good peel potential, and good rotation potential as well. Other side of things, you've got options such as Atlas. We've seen a little bit. Charon is available if you want to go more aggressive with lack of peel. But with what the Wargs have got now, the Ravana going into the jungle and the Martichoras for the ADC, I am thinking that you do need something that can just stand and weather it. So I'm thinking potentially the options of Terra, the Athena. Now this Ymir, we did see get banned a lot in the last set because he had that option, and we're going to see whether or not that ban was worthwhile. Calvin's going to be going ahead and running this Ymir. And against the comp from the Wargs, it's pretty damn good. None of them can get over the wall outside of Ravan's ultimate and Marty's ultimate. So if you're pulling an ultimate for a Ymir wall, that is very good value.
And meanwhile, on the flip side, I'm looking at this Yomi Tanuki. I mean, this is just like full face tank, like run at the enemy team, run it down the lane, on her with that early penetration, right? Pele wrapping around with those huge AoE autos. I mean, this is going to be some unbelievable team fighting. And I have to be honest with you here, Blur. I'm a little concerned about this Ymir pick. I'm kind of scratching my head because when I look at this Khepri, this Agni, and this Marty on the other side, I see Lockdown and I see Shred, which are two things that Ymir do not know how to deal with.
They don't, and it's always been one of the things that Ymir has struggled with. It's very obvious what he wants to do. He wants to walk up, he wants to wall you, and then walk up and freeze you. If during that time of being walked up, he now can't walk up, Ymir is sad. If during that time you are poked out, Ymir is also sad. So it's one of these things where, is it going to be just a case of what everyone else can do? Can this Ymir just come in with blinks? How that's going to affect it? Early laning phase, I still think it's okay. You've got this on her to absolutely shred through the wave. Ymir can also do that very well. And the damage reduction on the passive will be useful for Frostbite. So laning phase should be fine. Outside of laning phase, it's going to be picks in the jungle. Want to make sure that Wargs have got that warded up. Because if you run into the Ymir, chances are they are not going to be alone.
Eyes on the duo lane as we head here into game number 1 between the Niflheim Wargs and the Yomi Tanuki, two of the top teams in Europe here in the Smite Challenger circuit. And while we're revving up this game here, Blur, I want to talk about the stakes just a little bit. This Road to Worlds format, right? So all of these European and North American Challenger circuit teams, they're all competing for an opportunity to face the lowest tier SPL teams for a shot at playing in the World Championship. So I mean, sure, the games in prior, the gauntlets, prior phases, those have mattered, of course, for prizing, for seeding, for pride, most importantly for these amateur teams. But now, I mean, it really feels like these Challenger Circuit teams have something to stake their name on and put something down on the line for.
They do, and that's why every single point matters. Every single thing that they do have the potential to cause problems. Even going, in the last set, going 2-1, that extra 1 for Solar Scarabs may make a benefit here, but obviously the 2-0 is going to be best here. We'll see whether or not these two teams can find either one of those. Dual lane pressure, just for now, seems to be in Yomi Tanuki's favor, as expected. Meanwhile, mid-side, Raijin getting pushed in mainly due to the fact that the Ravan is just a little bit more aggressive early, can play about with that health bar just a little bit more effectively.
It's a 2v2 here in the middle lane. WorstTurttle does get knocked up, and here we head back to the duo lane and right back to the middle lane. Like I said, the duo lane going to be aggressive all game long, and the Niflheim Wargs apparently didn't get the memo that the mid lane was supposed to be a little chill here. 1 minute in, Hawkk going down to that brutal combination of Pele and Raijin. And boy, oh boy, did that just exemplify the Thunder Crash cooldown that we were just talking about. I mean, Pikarino was on the mid laner for the Wargs in a quarter of a second, if less.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, is Hawkk dashed in aggressively, trying to burn out beads, but in doing so, apreel just hit level 3, and that was the turnaround all they needed at this point. Again, WorstTurttle just pushing up.
What a stun there out of Hawkk. A double lockdown from that combustion gets WorstTurttle out of danger.
Just about in doing so. Hawkk there pulling his teammate out of the fire, but at this point in time, apreel more than comfortable taking that first blood, and Pikarino here, the aggression coming through from them was more a case of it was a slow, but for me the big thing is Hawkk was dead to rights there, still ends up burning beads. They are now a target for the next 2 minutes from a quick rotation from Calvìn, from apreel just coming in around the side on them. Hell, Pikarino could go ahead and just jump in on them without too much fear as well.
And, something you mentioned, the beads, something that popped into my mind pretty early on here was this beads pickup for apreel, right, on Pele. Normally you see the blink come out for the jungler, you see that in the enemy jungler in WorstTurttle, and when you pick a little more defensive relic, as apreel making the rotation here onto Panvich, knock up, what a great body block there out of the solo laner for Yomi Tanuki, and apreel finds a second for themselves, and that just, perfectly exemplifies the lockdown I was about to talk about. When you're up 2-0, when you're finding these advantages, it's okay to have this defensive relic, a little get-out-of-jail-free card in the back pocket.
Agreed, and the reason WorstTurttle doesn't need this is obviously the overhead kick, but as well, it's more a case of they don't have a way to close the gap without expending the ultimate. Pele can do it with the ultimate as well, sure, but does have that increased movement speed from Magma Rush, so can very easily use that. And like I mentioned in the picks and bans, getting more of that fuel back whenever you throw out the Pyroclast, it just makes things feel a little bit smoother so you can keep sustaining out there. My money, though, is the fact that Niflheim Wargs haven't been able to respond to this yet. They are still looking to try and just farm at this point. It's level 5 in the duo lane for both members to level 4 at this point, and that could spell some trouble for the rest of Niflheim Wargs. This game, it's not pulling the rug out from under them yet,
Sure.
but the hands are reaching for the edge.
My eyes are just, I mean, I'm locked into this dual lane player. Calvìn and StreakUp, I mean, two of the best in their position, but the same thing goes for the Wargs, right? Predss and iDavy, they've been to LAN countless times. They've been to Smite Masters. They have tons of experience. And here comes WorstTurttle with the wraparound StreakUp over the air using the CC immunity. It's not going to happen, though. iDavy picks up the ADC for kill number 1 here for the Niflheim Wargs and a much-needed assist on a WorstTurttle.
Can I just point out that Predss pre-beads the Impale knockback so that they could dash forwards and force StreakUp into a bad position? That kind of play is incredibly aggressive, and like you mentioned for April, when you're ahead, you can use these beads as a get out of jail free. Predss having these beads is to make sure that if they are, they can gas the rest of the team up. They are not getting CC'd out so they can't use their ult. They're always going to have some way to be impactful here. And that's a good look for them as Hawkk. Maybe in some trouble in the mid lane. Yeah, good luck surviving 2 ults like that.
Dude, there is so much distance closing between Pikarino and apreel. Like, that Pele ultimate, that goes a long way, Blur. Like, that is a long dash. And then Pikarino, you dash in with a Thunder Crash, which, you know, medium range. But then that ultimate, I mean, that thing travels halfway across the map, it feels like. And when you're stuck in a tough spot like that, as Hawkk was, I mean, that's just a free kill all day long. apreel using those beats to get it out of the route from Predss. It's going to be a 3v1 here. Sun Wukong able to walk away. Plenty of escapability. Ultimate online as well. And WorstTurttle is going to help Panvich secure that blue buff.
I like the fact that Ogi holds the beads there. They've got the ult if they really need to get out of the situation. Whereas on the other side, apreel knows, I've got no ult. I'm squishier than you. Debatably at this point, but I'm still a squishy god who's a 3-0 at this point. I can't afford to let them get a pick on me. Beads is away and just disengages. Very nice heads-up play. And you can see both kind of sort of mindsets there on when to burn beads and when not to. So nice work there. As items coming online now, we are seeing a little bit more of this sort of aggressive look, especially from like Anhur's and Hachiman's, where you get this RC first item. And this is all just a case of, I want to fight, I want to hit you hard and early. I don't really want to sit around wasting time stacking up a Devoure's gauntlets. I don't want to waste time spending so much money on a Bloodforge. This is just all the kind of early aggressive stats I need. And for the Yomi's comp, you need to be online. All 5 of these members want to be finishing this game in like 25 minutes tops.
Calvìn might have a look here. Doesn't seem like Davy's quite aware. Slow from the pillar. Wall off the mark there. Calvìn pushing out Davy. WorstTurtle's making that rotation in, and there's a pretty decent grouping here on the left side of the map. You know, something else that I was kind of pondering during picks and bans, Blur. This Niflheim Wargs team, Davy forced to use the beads. Oh, what a wall there! Locking down Davy. Doesn't even have the opportunity to hop in the air. apreel is huge. Level 9 Pele, 4-0. Davy goes down.
So that's what the Ymir walls are going to do there. They're just going to cause problem. Fact as well, Davy didn't even get the opportunity to go into the ult, still ended up burning the beads. It's an unfortunate look for them, as now that early aggression that the Anhur is going to want to try and bring can more easily do so. There's about half a level, if not more. Hawkk is in a lot of trouble in the mid lane. WorstTurttle blinks in and cleans it up. That's a big shutdown, though. That was 5 for them. So, I don't know if that's necessarily worth it, especially considering Hawkk is 0-3 at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like it, right? As WorstTurtle going in on Pikarino immediately goes into the ultimate to dissuade WorstTurtle from any more aggression. Yeah, I mean, you're at that point, you were 5-0, right? You pick up the kill onto Hawkk. Definitely not worth it as WorstTurttle gets a big first kill on the board for themselves. But kind of rewinding back to the thought I wanted to talk about here. There's a ton of shred and a ton of confirm on both of these teams. Like, it's 8 minutes in, and I'm kind of shocked that Gold Fury hasn't been started, as, speaking of the devil, Caster's Curse hits pretty hard. Gold Fury started up, a little bit of a heat check from the Yomi Tanuki. No commitment yet, but I mean, between Anhur, Apreel, and Pikarino with the secure, and then on the flip side, the shred from iDavy, Hawkk, and WorstTurttle, a Gold Fury, a Pyro, an objective could go down in the blink of an eye.
It could, and for some, for if it was just one team had all of the secure, the other didn't, then there would be that reason to say, hey, let's go more than just a heat check. Let's try and actually burn it and burst it. Because both of these sides have that that option to try and burst it down very quickly. Even the Agni bombs, 3 of those dropped in quick succession will do a hell of a lot of damage for Hawkk. It kind of balances it out where both of these teams go, well, we can't out-secure it, so neither side ends up going for it. At least early on, we would expect a little bit more of maybe a pick or two. If iDavies could still get picked off, maybe lose the ultimate, then they would be more comfortable doing so. But for now, it kind of feels like it is on the Yomi Tanukis to put that pressure. I said that they want to be firing on all 5 cylinders early on. I want to see, as soon as OgiBre gets one of these 2 items finished, I want to see them rotating out and starting to put pressure in. I want to see the same thing from Calvìn, who's now left StreakUp alone. I just want to see aggression spill out from these jungle fights into the, or these lanes into the jungle.
Blur, 10-minute check in here. 20 seconds out, close enough. About a 3K-ish lead here for the Yomi Tanuki. Niflheim Wargs, bit passive on the map, really counterplaying, right? You saw WorstTurttle return the kill onto apreel. iDavy finds one on the left side. Are the Niflheim Wargs biding their time, waiting for their composition to spin up, or are they just happy to play the return game and answer the call of the Yomi Tanuki when the Tanuki decide to kick things off?
I think it's a little bit of both. If Yomi Tanuki do nothing, Niflheim Wargs are not going to start anything aggressively. Their team scales far better into the late stages of the game, with this Amaterasu coming through for the passive, just making everyone do more damage. The fact that you've got a second life with Predss coming through. All of these gods want to get a little bit more in them, especially this front line for the Niflheim Wargs. But the Yomi Tanuki as well, if they do go aggressively, they can't, or they won't, just sit back, as they will try and put a little bit of pressure out, enough to try and dissuade the Yomi Tanuki, but not enough necessarily to overcommit to an engagement. As we just saw there, Yomi Tanuki sent 3 members over to the duo lane. They look over that way if it's needed. Are they doing the Gold Fury? No, probably not. Then that's fine. But look at the ward coverage real quick. I just glance up at the map. This entire left-hand side is pimpled with wards and sentry wards for the Yomi Tanukis.
Dotted red around this Gold Fury. And I thought for a moment there the Tanuki were going to try to maybe bait in the Niflheim Wargs. I mean, it seems pretty effective, right? Like, in my mind, Blur, you bait in the Niflheim Wargs, you throw up a wall, and all of a sudden it's like a death trap. The Yomi Tanuki committing to the Gold Fury in force here, and there's the shred that we were talking about, Blur. The Yomi Tanuki, within 10 seconds, have destroyed the Gold Fury without a single blink from the Niflheim Wargs. And now with call it a 4K gold lead, the Niflheim Wargs are kind of starting to hit that point where maybe you got to make a play or two or find a pick to really stay in this and allow your composition to scale. iDavy, there's the freeze coming out. The slow as well, pillar off the mark. Calvìn using the ultimate to throw out some damage, but a little bit of miscommunication or maybe a little bit of misplay there from StreakUp.
Potential turnaround now. Panvich is making a rotation here with the teleport, though apreel is also over this side of the map. Calvìn is the focus right now. They are incredibly tanky at this point. apreel jumps on in, and the fight's going back for Yomi Tanukis.
Oh, apreel's not done. Goes right back in. Desert Fury used on Predss, who's got just a tick of HP left. Able to dash away there. StreakUp, excuse me, not StreakUp, iDavy throwing out some of that foliage just to make sure the support able to make it out A-okay. A good return rotation there from apreel, and even though the Yomi Tanuki don't pick up a kill, it's enough to dissuade the Wargs.
And that's like what we were talking about, this idea. Niflheim Wargs aren't necessarily going to start something, but they will end something here. Yomi Tanukis push them a little bit aggressively. They push back up towards the tower line, but they don't overextend to end up losing things. And that's a very good heads-up play from the Wargs there. It's that sort of not being incredibly passive the whole game, but not fighting into a losing fight, which is very difficult to try and do. Good rotation from Panvich, realizing there's the time that they've got to be able to do so. They've got a teleport. OgiBre does not noticeably have a teleport, so, and with it being upgraded, they had the opportunity to say, I can make this rotation. They're very tanky to the physicals. That was a good time for them to make that rotation. Unfortunately, Yomi Tanuki's lead gives them that little bit of slack that they need to take in if a fight doesn't go perfectly for them.
You know, Blur, even though the gold lead is certainly going the way of the Yomi Tanuki, I mean, checking out these levels, the Niflheim Wargs are farming just efficiently and perfectly fine, right? You got a little bit of a level lackluster in the solo lane, couple levels behind in the mid lane, but that, I mean, Pikarino just ticked over to 15 there. A little bit of a lag in the support role as well, but I mean, the people you're looking at to really help out WorstTurttle and iDavy, they're doing just fine. So the Niflheim Wargs, sure, you're a couple thousand gold behind, but you're kind of keeping pace where you really need to here 14 minutes in. Calvin caught out here, and comes Ogi in the rotation. Predss, no escape, lockdown, knocked up. Scarab's Blessing used, but locked into place and surrounded by the death core of the Yomi Tanuki. Predss goes down. Pikarino finding the last shot onto the support Khepri, and now we've got a Pyromancer wide open here for the Yomi Tanuki. No one in the area. Yet another objective go the way of the Tanuki as we approach 15 minutes. Tanuki starting to spiral this one a little bit further out of the reach of the Warg's fingertips.
And that's all just because of this Ymir wall. When we were talking about this, we didn't necessarily think, or I specifically didn't necessarily think, how these map changes have impacted it. I'm still thinking a couple of seasons ago where the jungle's fairly large, the lanes are about the same sort of size-ish. You can get it. There's so many more little choke points like we saw there. That's the second time these kind of walls from Calvìn. And it's not so much a case of, oh, the Ymir walks up and walls you. It's you are being pulled in to deal with something else. And then suddenly there is a Ymir walking at you. And it's just not something that you can deal with here as StreakUp just poking out at iDavy with basic attacks, gets the ult from iDavy. This is starting to get a little bit difficult for the Wargs to just deal with the aggression.
Talk me through this this build coming out from iDavy here. Not necessarily like an auto attack standard hunter build, right? Much more like mid lane Marty focused, right? Like usually what you see when you plug an ADC in the middle lane. Is that what the Niflheim Wargs need right now, or I mean, is this going to contribute to that late game scaling?
I mean, you need your Martichoras to do as much damage as they can, and a lot of it comes through with their abilities. So it makes sense with the Transcendence, then a little bit of sustain against StreakUp. It also compares well with your passive, so it makes a lot of sense to go for it. Now they're going for some CDR. We'll see whether or not it comes in useful here as WorstTurttle looking to start a fight in a 3v3.
Does get the double up down, but apreel has already taken out the Martichoras in the back line. Ogi is here with a knockup. Good overhead kick from WorstTurttle to immune the knockup, but like, who cares? Scarab's Blessing on to the jungler apreel, going to wait it out. Thunder Crash from Pikarino, snatching that kill out from the fingertips of the jungler. And guess what? Primal Fury back online, and Primal Fury about to drop down to the Yomi Tanuki.
As Niflheim Wargs trying to pump the brakes on any kind of aggression. They think they're in a good spot. But unfortunately, because of the timing, Wargs wanted to head over and set up for a Fury. They wanted to say, hey, let's set up for a Fury, see if we can take a fight. And the fight was just handed to them on a silver platter. WorstTurttle the only one who ends up falling there, but the timing was just too perfect for them. iDavy had to disengage. Predss couldn't walk up and had no way to be able to do so safely. So they get not only a kill, not only the Primal Fury, but they also go ahead and grab themselves a tier 1 tower over on the left side. And that 4K, 6K gold lead, now pushing on towards that 8K gold lead, becomes a bit more difficult to deal with. And with all this map pressure as well, I wouldn't be surprised whether or not we see one of them start even thinking about when can we start doing fire. Because look at the builds. Like, apreel's 4 items deep at this point in time. Pikarino is mostly finished with their kind of major items. They've got enough pen to start shredding it. Once Calvìn gets a little bit tankier, StreakUp's just finished their high penetration item. They could legitimately start looking at fire if they win a full fight here.
Okay, so Calvìn hasn't bought an item in like 10 minutes. Like that Shogun's was finished a long time ago. How much gold do you think Calvin has in hand right now? I mean, yeah,
Too much.
The relics have been finished off. We have level 3 relics across the board here, but I'm curious to see how many items Calvin ends up buying. It's just going to be a level 2 shield there, as most of the gold has gone towards warding and relics. But I mean, tons of gold in hand there for Calvin. Is it going to be a dash out here from Pikarino? Predss locked down into place. Beads used as well. Here's a slowdown from those shards of ice. And it's going to be a wash here in the middle lane. I mean, 8-2, the Yomi Tanuki, they're not blowing up the scoreboard in kills, but they're finding them when they matter and then following up with big-time objectives. Pyromancer, speaking of, about to come offline. And I mean, that thing is going to disappear in the blink of an eye if the Tanuki decide to commit.
Agreed, and the problem is as well is Niflheim Wargs, the sort of the gold lead, like 3k is the noticeable, okay, let's try and stop them. 6k, okay, we need to pick our fights carefully. 8k, we need to stop them extending this lead further. And you need to start trying to pick good battles here. This Pyromancer, Wargs are at least trying to be the ones with the initiative here, but they've got to be so careful just walking in, because this corridor is where they got choked out last time, but Calvin is just deleted.
The immobility of Ymir finally showing itself, question mark, as Calvin is going to escape with all of 20 HP. Apreel low as well. Tick damage coming out from Marty. Panvich around the corner, putting the finishing touches on the jungler. A big time knockup. Predss escaping with that Scarab's Blessing, getting chased out by a clone, and Ogi is going to fall down as well. The Niflheim Wargs finally coming out on top for the first time in this game number 1. Pikarino forced out of the fight, and a great rotation there from the dual lane of the Niflheim Wargs, and a couple members of the Yomi Tanuki sneaking out with just a couple ticks of HP. Fight goes the way of the Wargs, though.
Great recognition. Calvin is one hit, don't care. Calvin is one hit. That's good enough for this engagement. Turn your focus elsewhere, see what you can end up picking up. Apreel and OgiBre dive very deep to try and go for a kill, but this is Niflheim Wargs trying to take that initiation. They start up the Pyromancer, so it's on their terms. So they're the ones who are being aggressive here. It's Panvich seeing a 3v1 situation, does decide correctly to disengage from that one. The rest of the members are trying to back away, but they were the ones who controlled the Pyromancer pit. Even just by vision alone of standing in it meant that they knew what was happening. They controlled the shots. Now, though, it does seem that Yomi Tanuki have battled back. They will grab themselves this second Pyromancer. Calvin now with both of them. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Calvin just walks over to solo lane, goes ahead and drops both of those. They could potentially look to save them for an objective in the jungle, but usually and typically we see those used just to try and clear out towers very quickly, get a bit of global gold for the team.
Kind of unfortunate there. The Niflheim Wargs, speaking of the Niflheim Wargs, StreakUp forced out. WorstTurttle just walking it down. And StreakUp dead to rights, pushing up a little forward, maybe showing some of that confidence or arrogance that has been accumulated over 20 minutes of domination here from the Yomi Tanuki. And an unfortunate death timing there. StreakUp goes down right as the Gold Fury pops back online. And that's going to go the way of the Niflheim Wargs, finally securing a neutral objective for themselves.
All right.
And we've been singing the praises of the Tanuki, Blur, but the Niflheim Wargs are not out of this game. I mean, we've been talking about how their composition scales fantastically into the late game. And guess what, Blur? It's almost the late game.
We're definitely getting there. It's sort of the middle of the mid game, so 25 minutes is where you can start looking to definitely that late game. But this is, like I said, Yomi Tanuki's, their team comp wants to be winning this game handedly, finish it out in 25 minutes. Now Niflheim Wargs can start getting their kits online. WorstTurttle is pretty much full build, just needs something to swap the recipe out for, and then follow up with the starter item, probably Bumper's Hammer, maybe Bumper's Spear, depending how they're feeling. Panvich now, their rotations are going to be impactful as well. Got a lot of frontline tankiness, a lot of mitigations, a little bit of sustain coming through as well. Predss, these ultimates, we've seen now twice they have had to be used on Predss themselves, which isn't great, but the fact that they can still end up using that ultimate wastes so much more time. The rest of this team's going to start coming online. iDavy's got a load of pen online, a little bit of crit. These are starting to where they can start taking these fights on a more even term, minus the 6k that they are down now. But again, looking at build-wise, Davy's got the same number of items as StreakUp, so they're on an even playing field. Hawkk is down the Soul Reaver, but it's still fairly even haul, especially, and same can be said in the jungle. So this front line from the solo lane is as tanky as each other, though Panvich is more tanky because they scale better into the late game. And now we're starting to see that this front line from Niflheim Wargs is going to be more and more able to start stepping up to some of this damage that's being put out from Yomi Tanuki's.
I'm going to make a prediction, Blur. I'm going to predict something.
Yep.
And either I'm going to be right and look amazing, or I'm going to be wrong and look foolish. But here we go.
Well, like what I did last game.
Exactly.
Go for it.
The one thing, not the one thing, but one thing I think the Wargs have really been missing that has come through in the Tanuki is this solo lane presence, right? Ogi's been in the middle of these team fights, tons of CC.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Niflheim Wargs are going to take a big-time team fight, it's going to come off the back of a big Amaterasu ultimate. It's going to be Panvich in the fray, getting a couple stuns or burning beads on a couple members of the Yomi Tanuki, and then great follow-up from Hawkk and iDavy. That's my prediction. Thoughts?
All right. I do definitely agree. OgiBre has been more noticeable in these early stage fights in terms of their positioning, but that is more a case of what OgiBre needs to do. As a Sun Wukong, your objective is to dive into the back line, to be a nuisance, to be annoying, get your whole kit off, jump up onto the cloud, and then do it again 3 seconds later. Panvich needs to be more a case of a frontline stalwart wall, as we are going to see a little bit of a spat go away in mid. So far, it's just Panvich on the front, getting CC'd. But there we see that stalwart wall looking to just absorb some damage, fire some back.
Titans clashing in the middle lane. The Order Titan has been driven back. The Chaos Titan charging forward. But the Yomi Tanuki electing to not follow up with their base defender. Instead, looking immediately to the Fire Giant. The Niflheim Wargs have to deal with the Chaos Titan. The Yomi Tanuki taking advantage of the Titan marching down the middle lane, and the Fire Giant's going to go down. The Chaos Titan has been driven back. The Fire Giant has gone down to the Yomi Tanuki, and now WorstTurtle's in a worse position. Scares Blessing going to disappear WorstTurtle into the ground. Predss in a tough spot here. Good pin there onto Ogi is going to allow the Khepri to survive for just a moment. And the Niflheim Wargs only lose one, but the Yomi Tanuki, I mean, they get the world.
They do, and the thing for me, I thought Calvìn had burnt both of the runic bombs to just absolutely secure it. No, recognize this, hey, no one else is around, no one else needs to worry about the damage. I'm just going to use one on that, secures that. Now they've got that for the next side of objectives. And the other point as well, at this level of the game, you cannot expect people to miss time popping a Khepri. WorstTurttle had the Khepri and went, I can now fight them. If they fight me back, they'll die. But you are 1v5. You are not putting out enough damage to threaten anyone when they're all nearly full health, and they will just wait you out and pick you off afterwards. You have to recognize that if you have a Khepri in that situation, it is to bail you out, not to gas pedal you in. So it's a slight miscommunication there, or misthought process from WorstTurttle trying to keep going. But it was very difficult. It was a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. So it's going to be rough for them now. 10k down in the Niflheim Wargs and into a Fire Giant here. This is going to be the roughest battle they take. In terms of on a defense here, they can at least show a little face towards these tier 2 towers. Maybe try and clear out some of the waves. But if Calvìn does things like this, slowing them down with the walls, it's going to be much harder to try and get those through. And they can still tank them up without too much issue. You'll notice now, Wargs are already backing away from it. Calvìn, though, it's a lot more damage than I think they were expecting. Now Panvich with the ultimate. Will this be the one that turns the team fight around? Let's find out.
Well, it certainly wasn't on multiple members, but it was enough to take out Calvìn. Pikarino already burning the Raijin ultimate as well. And thus far, the Niflheim Wargs successfully defend this tier 2 tower. And without even really much help from Hawkk, I mean, you're looking at this Agni to be the real stalwart defender with those bombs raining down. Didn't really need it, as Predss and iDavy and Panvich on the tail end there combined to take down Calvìn. Middle lane tower is going to go down to StreakUp on the Anhur. So the Niflheim Wargs don't get out completely unscathed, but hey, I'd rather have 2 towers left on the map than only one.
That is true. I am surprised Calvìn didn't use that runic bomb. I thought that, it was going to make sense, they tank it up. When it gets low, they tear it down. Doesn't matter that there's no minions in there. It's 500 damage still. I was expecting something like that, but instead, going ahead, popping the ult to try and get the extra shielding, they just didn't quite respect how much damage potential there was still coming out. They were thinking what I was originally thinking. Wargs are just gonna, we step in, they back up, they throw a little bit of defense, but Wargs recognize, hey, there are 2 people here, and there are 3 of us and a tower. We do enough damage to try and push them back enough. So they lose Calvìn. Calvìn ends up losing the Fire Giant buff. It's not the end of the world. And like you said, apreel goes ahead and apprehends the mid tier 2 tower. So that's still forced out. And they've still got Fire Giant on the rest of them. This left side tier 2 tower, though, very much a faint kind of a defense here. Davy's going to clear out the wave and then run as quickly as they can back to safety.
Yeah, this might be one of those 2 auto attacks and done situation on this tier 2 tower. Calvìn back in the fray, yoinked in by Predss, but Hawkk dropped down by the Yomi Tanuki. I mean, absolutely obliterated. Predss is going to have the Scarab's Blessing popped between a rock and a hard place. Here comes WorstTurttle over the top. But, buddy, you've dashed into 5, forced out of the fray there. Ogi playing the Space Creator, apreel,
my goodness,
throwing out the damage with those huge autos. And, I mean, just locked down central from the Yomi Tanuki. WorstTurttle, the only surviving member of the Niflheim Wargs tier 2 tower, goes down. Phoenix on the left-hand side goes down. The Yomi Tanuki are low, but WorstTurttle can only look on as the Chaos team sends in the might of the entirety of the team, finds one in return, apreel down for 54 seconds. But the Yomi Tanuki are going to cap off game number 1 with a 29-minute victory over the Niflheim Wargs.
Very well played there. That final fight over on the left-hand side, that tier 2 tower was but a stone's throw from being destroyed. So to see so many members from the Niflheim Wargs stepping that far up, Hawkk got completely shut out. A fantastic combination of both the pillar and the wall. They had absolutely nowhere to go. Hawkk gets deleted before even being able to look at the Phoenix to get away. Everyone else spends so much defensively. We had shells coming out to try and buy everyone HP, but it just didn't matter. And then WorstTurttle comes in with this idea of, it's, they've used a load of abilities. I can go in and clean up. No, they used next to nothing on that tier 2 defense or siege because there wasn't a need to. So it all kind of just ended up falling in over on each other. And then because everyone else is gone, you may as well try and go for the end. And as a result, Yomi Tanuki's pick up game 1.
Well, Blur, the Yomi Tanuki made a liar out of me. Not a 29-minute victory for the Tanuki, but a 28-minute, 59-second victory for the Yomi Tanuki. That's game number 1. Tanuki, take it down. Game number 2 coming your way in just a sec. Stick around.
They say that life's too short to be holding this tight. So why am I walking light? And in this world of light and color, I'm not afraid of the night. When this future's so bright, yeah, I got all these friends and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours, and all these friends, and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours. This new world is ours. They say that life's too short, and I can feel in my bones The horizon is close now, now, now. And the world's been changing lately. But after the storm, we come out strong now, now. And I got all these friends, and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours. And all these friends, and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back into the Smite Challenger Circuit. We're still in Europe. I'm still Dimes. That's that way. Yeah, that's still
that's that way.
that's still Supersonic Blur. Bit of a downer. Bit of a thing we got to tell you here. Had some technical wibbly wobbly stuff with game number 2, but I can report the Niflheim Wargs take down game number 2, which means, Blur, we're headed into a game number 3 situation here between the Tanuki and the Wargs.
We certainly are. We had a quick peek over. We did have some bits of data in terms of picks and bans. By the looks of it, Niflheim Wargs said, hey, Raijin, some Wukong, and Anhur, those are really good gods. What if we played your comp? And they basically did that. From the looks of it, everything else that we'll see in this next game, I'm curious to see whether or not that means that now we're going to see this hyper aggressive kind of just butt heads and whoever flinches first, that's the game, or whether or not both teams go, okay, you can play good early game. Let's see if you can play good late game.
All right, well, let's head right into it, Blur. Let's get game 3 going here. And like you said, Raijin, Wukong, Anhur. That seems to be the key here. In the game number 2 situation that the Wargs climbed back from. They also picked up Serqet and Ares to round out that composition. We know how strong Ares is right now. Serqet has been seeing some play as well. So that is a pretty, I mean, between Anhur, Serqet, and Ares, that's like a hyper aggro, like, kill situation, right? As the Freya ban is going to come through. Freya has not seen a single opportunity to be played here in the set. Same thing goes for Olorun. Pele finally taken off the table, was first picked by the Yomi Tanuki, so trying to run that back for apreel. Not going to happen in game number 3 here.
It doesn't look like the Serqet's coming through either. And I like what we saw, especially from game one. Apreel just felt so comfortable on this pick. Was able to chase down kills, was able to just be there to knock down whatever was set up. Go through a good poke, good bit of damage. And for Apreel to be able to run the game, even though it wasn't necessarily Apreel who was running the game, it's the fact that they had the option to do so. Taking away all of these kind of early game hyper aggressive gods, I like what we see there. But only 6 bans means that something gets left on the table, and it seems like Hawkk's going to take this Raijin.
No surprise there. Raijin played in all 3 games, and Raijin taking down 2 of the victories, right? Notably Anhur taken off the table, so maybe the Yomi Tanuki deciding that was one of the key pieces of the puzzle in that Raijin, Sun Wukong, Anhur 3-piece there. So Raijin goes the way of the Wargs. The Yomi Tanuki, Chernobog finally not put away in the Shadow Realm. Going to be picked up here by the Tanuki. And the ever-present Wukong hovered. Thoughts? Yomi Tanuki says yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. This Chernobog, though, a little bit of flex potential. If Yomi Tanukis want to run this double hunter comp that we saw Solar Scarabs try out, then they have the option to do so with this Chernobog in mid. They've still got other options for them. But I do like this Chernobog, though, all in all. Very, very popular god now with the changes to the Vicious Barrage. Just having it a 3-second cooldown for that extra attack speed means that you can forego a lot of attack speed in your build. You can go into more crit. You can go into more just high penetration. You are totally fine and safe to do so. Whereas the Wargs on the other side, we are picking up a King Arthur who did also receive a couple of buffs, a little bit more extra mitigation, a little bit of changes to some of their abilities. But the Ares, like you mentioned, is also another phenomenally high god, which leads to the next pick here, which is the Ganesh. Ganesh is an absolutely fantastic counter to Ares. The Ohm is fantastic, but not only that, it does require you to build Absolution, but Ganesh ult is on a shorter cooldown than Ares. You will never get pulled if your Ganesh is against Ares. You just build Absolution and you are absolutely fine, as is your entire team versus no escape. That is, of course, if you can get to the option to build the item.
Triple compositions here. The 3 pieces, the core of each squad has been picked up by the Wargs and the Tanuki. Bands rolling through here. Discordia kind of piques my eye there, but we're not going to be seeing her, so no use chit-chatting about her here. The Yomi Tanuki got their core defense online. Need a mid laner, need a jungler. Could be a Janus pickup here for the Yomi Tanuki. Interesting with, I mean, Agni's still on the table. Thoth is still on the table. Plenty of, like, long-range poke style gods, but it's going to be the god of transitions taken out here for the Yomi Tanuki. And same thing goes for the Wargs. Need some damage on the table in the jungler and the ADC. Marty's on the board. Might as well grab it.
I don't mind the idea of the Martichoras as well. We saw a reasonable amount of play, how they were able to play out in the last game from the Wargs that we saw. Davey feels comfortable on that. And against the Chernobog, it's going to be a difficult one, but if we're looking for what WorstTurttle is going to do, you seem pretty happy for the idea of an Arachne here. And I can kind of see where some of it's coming from. I don't think that necessarily the buffs to her make her potent. I think that they sort of bring her into like quality of life changes. That said, early aggression could mean a lot for them if we see King Arthur get a lead against some Wukong thanks to a help from Arachne. That could be nice. Maybe potentially trying to follow this Janus by going up into the webs. That could be an option, but my goodness, Yomi Tanuki's comp. You have 3 of the best global rotators, or semi-global for Ratatoskrs. Yomi Tanuki can just run the map and then be home in time for dinner and then go out for a quick Gold Fury as well. It's just, how do Wargs even think about trying to take any kind of a fight? It's going to be difficult for them when, if you fight in Chernobog's lane, Chernobog can disappear, or Janus can dropship in more people. If you fight in mid, Janus is going to walk through walls. And if you try and fight a Ratatoskr, everyone else is going to dogpile you.
Nothing else to say here, Blur. I think you summed it up perfectly. It's game number 3. It's the Niflheim Wargs and the Yomi Tanuki. And let's head right into it. Now, Arachne. I want to chat Arachne for a second.
Go for it.
I agree that Arachne has seen more quality of life changes than like real potent changes to her kit or her playstyle or whatever. I think she's better than some people think. But I think another Chair 1 prediction here, so we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
I think they threw into this composition of insanely mobile characters. I mean, like, look at the Sun Wukong, Apreel, Pikarino, StreakUp. All of them have, like, get out of jail free, ultimates, dashes, CC immunity. Like, what is WorstTurttle going to do? Walk up to them and, like, auto them? No, they just run away. They just go away. They just ultimate away. Like, I don't see that working 9 times out of 10.
Well, that's why you got to do it multiple times. You got to walk up, make them walk away, and then walk back to them. And we do see as well, that is Party Punch for WorstTurttle, I believe, at this point. So that will be an interesting one. Looking to just try and say, hey, if I can get one auto into you, that'll be good. As StreakUp, my goodness, still level 1. Yeah, Chains and Flames do a lot of damage early game.
No way. The Chains and Flames of the recently buffed Ares does a ton of damage. That's a question. It was mostly rhetorical. It was kind of sarcastic, but
yeah, I know. That's why I let you. That's why I let you sit there on that.
You can't know. Then it doesn't work if you don't like give me something back. Then I just look like an. All right, never mind. 2 hyper aggressive lanes here. I mean, the Ganesha dash, StreakUp obviously seeing some buffs on the Chernobog as well, and then I mean the shred between Marty and Ares. Like Apreel making a rotation over early. No surprise there on this Ratatoskr.
Yeah, they both want to look towards their shield buff. It's been highly contested in some of the EU games we have seen, and with Apreel over this way, at the very least, it is non-contested farm for them to be able to grab. Meanwhile, we see WorstTurttle getting very aggressive into Pikarino underneath the tier 1 tower. The problem is that's basically the best you're going to be able to get here. You need those spiders or minions or something to tank up the tower. So if Pikarino just sits on tower line and drops back into it, there is very little that WorstTurttle can do, and it becomes a job for Hawkk. But if Hawkk steps up too far, they get their beats forced by Apreel.
Notably on the other side, though, to be fair, Pikarino also burning the beads against the Arachne.
Good point, yeah.
So it's beads for beads. Like, yeah, it sucks you have to burn the beads as Calvìn gets chained out here, but at least it's parity, right? At least both mid laners don't have that safety belt. So for a little bit at least, the mid lane is going to be a quiet place of peace and calm and tranquility on the map. As WorstTurtle's looking at the duo of Apreel and Pikarino taking down these Harpies on the right-hand side, and I don't think there's a single world where you can ever engage into that. I do want to chat about this King Arthur, though. You mentioned King Arthur has... Say what?
Well, I said what you want to know. You said
what you want to know. I thought you said which one. I was like, the only one on the map. What do you mean, which one? Like, there's not a Morgan on the map. Kind of walk me through the improvements that King Arthur has seen and why you pick it up over some of these other more popular solo laners we've been seeing taken into the solo lane.
All right, so King Arthur against the Sun Wukong. First and foremost, the matchup, because there's more buttons for King Arthur to press, you can kind of match the bully potential from OgiBre. Panvich can kind of match that just by having more buttons to be able to press, which is one thing. The second part towards a lot of that is it's more about sort of the idea of what King Arthur has had in the past. King Arthur has always had this kind of, I want to bully you and be aggressive into you a lot of the time, because of the steadfast. Now, however, you're gaining a little bit more mitigation early on in each stack. So instead of 1, you're getting 2.5. You now also gain some HP 5 for that as well. So you can kind of battle back into it fairly aggressively. So it's less about matching it with sustain in terms of like, oh, I'm a Sun Wukong, I'm going to build Soul Eater and you're not going to be able to deal with me. It's a case of I can out-sustain you in a long, drawn-out engagement, as this looks to be anything but.
Here we go, StreakUp, forced beads and forced out, but Calvin's locked down. Predss finds the first kill of the game. The Niflheim Wargs pick up kill number 1. You put it on the Ares, which is not exactly who you'd love to see it on, but hey, a kill is a kill, and first blood is a first blood.
First blood is not too bad for anyone, especially when it's the Niflheim Wargs who are able to grab that in a nice 2v3 situation. We did see the Janus ult come through, but unfortunately no one else followed through with it. Now we're going to see potential to turn this around. Apreel looking to pick up iDavy here. Can they do so in time?
Oh, just enough time before that no escape goes off. Apreel puts the final auto attack into iDavy. A 1-to-1 trade with a little bit of a late rotation there from Apreel, but actually kind of appropriately timed.
And that's a nice little thing that you do sometimes is your rotation can be so late that it just becomes a new engagement entirely. I mean, sometimes that works. Sometimes you recognize, hey, I'm not going to be here in time for a fight, but if they stick around thinking that I'm not there, I can then clean up in an entirely new engagement, which ends up working out quite nicely for them. We did see their WorstTurttle being a little bit aggressive in terms of positioning, looking to see if they could steal away any buffs, but unfortunately, timing was just off for it. So now, and instead have to rotate back towards mid. Hawkk is low, and Hawkk is in a lot of trouble.
And Hawkk goes down. WorstTurttle maybe with the turnaround, though. Apreel, not too much mana. What? A portal, a miss out of WorstTurttle. Doesn't come down off the web. And Apreel, that speedy Ratatoskr with the yellow buff wrapped around their waist. I mean, WorstTurtle, there's no apology there. That is just a straight-up misplay out of the jungler for the Wargs.
Rough stuff for WorstTurtle there. That kill would have been absolutely huge for them, getting them a little bit further into this game. Apreel, quiet considering the game, but considering that both of the kills have had their name highly signed onto it, then it is pretty nice to see that Apreel gets shut down. But a TKO is at least on the cards for them, as we are seeing now second stage of these recipes coming through. I'm really interested to know how WorstTurtle is planning to use this party punch, because with Arachne passive, the lower HP you get, the more damage her basic attacks do. So it's kind of trying to like take that ramp up and more sort of give you that burst at the start, then it drops down slightly, burst back into it, as we can see perfectly leveled up there. 20 plus 15% of your power to the next basic attack or ability that you hit on an enemy god, which is pretty good, all things considered, but it's more about getting that power in, and Arachne doesn't have that right now.
Hawkk, the target of Calvìn, who dashes in aggressively and throws down those pillars, locking down Predss between four members. Hawkk with a phenomenal ultimate there, sitting the barrels through, but it's not enough to protect Predss from Apreel grabbing another kill for themselves. And StreakUp heads right back to the dual lane to kick things off onto iDavy. Got some good juke shoes on, though. Only a couple of auto attacks connect with the Marty. Gold Fury online, sure, but a lot expended to take down Predss there. So the Yomi Tanuki, instead of looking at that neutral objective, grab one more shield buff for themselves and back right off.
Curious call for them to be able to just back off. There wasn't really any rotation coming through either, so they had the option of trying to potentially push for more, but better safe than sorry in some of these situations. It's still very early days. The gold lead is still fairly close, so you don't want to potentially throw away any of your lead or extend a lead further for your opponents. But it is good to see, though, that these two teams are trying to battle right now early. Sorry, I just got completely caught off guard by WorstTurtle's second item. They are going for Vital Amplifier second, which we'll get a moment to talk about as when we can. But Predss wants to blink in aggressively, but they just get ohmed out. They're all on Predss, though.
No ultimate online for the Ares, but doesn't matter at all as WorstTurtle blinks in, takes down Apreel. That's going to be a shutdown on the previously 3-0, now 3-1 Ratatoskr. That's a good look for WorstTurtle, as Calvìn is now between a tough spot here. Arachne crashing down, barrels running through. Calvìn goes down to WorstTurtle, finds a delayed double kill for themselves. Purple buff, the new target, but Predss with an ultimate back onto Pikarino, forced to use the beads, as ultimate was expended previously just to make the rotation. A good turnaround there from the Niflheim Wargs to actually leap forward ahead in gold.
Very nicely played there in the situation. And as a very good caster once said, the best form of CC is just standing in front of them, because it essentially is a free route. And that's exactly what WorstTurtle did. Just stood in front of Calvìn and was able to just completely shut them out. They burnt beads, they burnt ultimate, and they still could not get away. And so now, WorstTurtle starting to ramp up a little bit of damage. No penetration online, but just trying to rely on that passive, trying to rely on those slows to be able to constantly tick and chase you down.
3-3 now. We're getting pretty close to 10 minutes, typically like the third of the way through the match, and got a little bit of a lead here for the Niflheim Wargs, but Davy locked down, forced to the ultimate. Ultimate expended from Calvìn as well throughout those pillars, but it's going to be a straight-up trade ult for ult. Actually, beads were burned as well from iDavy, so for the next couple minutes, about 2.5 minutes, call it or so, Apreel, large eyes looking towards the duo lane on the left-hand side of the map here. Slapboxing in the solo lane, no surprise. At what point, Blur, are we going to see Panvich and Ogi start to make those big-time, impactful rotations that we saw in game number 1?
I think second item for both of these two. Panvich wants to get that second physical defense item online so that they can start rotating into StreakUp so that Apreel doesn't cause them a problem if they run into them in the jungle. And the same idea for OgiBre. That second item, probably going to be Archdruids. Maybe we see Stone of Binding. Something that lets them be aggressive and step up. Because the idea of the solo lane is kind of to get out of the solo lane as quickly as possible. I mean, that's kind of how it ends up working for it. You want to be able to, you want to get the items online, you want to be tanky, you want to use that level 11 to be effective. Unfortunately, with how this game has gone, they're the same level as both junglers and mid lanes, if not slightly behind. So the only lane they'd be able to really rotate to and be ahead against is the duo lane. But right now, it's a very even keel game. So at this point in time, seeing a rotation, it's going to have to be for an objective or maybe a beacon if they feel that that's a major importance to them right now. But for now, everyone is fine to just farm this up to 20 minutes. It's on to, I would say, the junglers to decide, hey, I want to start an engagement. I want to start a fight. Let's see if we can find somewhere to get an advantage.
I got to ask, Blur, with left side actually seeing a little bit of pressure here, as Hawkk is making the rotation, Ares has joined the fray as well. So 4 members of the Niflheim Wargs aggressing onto the Gold Fury. Only 2 members of the Yomi Tanuki here at the moment, but tons of globals on the board for the Chaos Squad.
Janus
Pillars
ult.
down, Yasuo! Yomi Tanuki
go!
ripping through, grabbing the Gold Fury underneath the Niflheim Wargs, pulling the rug out from under the Order team. Predss turning it back around onto Calvìn, though. Here comes Apreel. The dunk's gonna be on. Panvich has made the rotation onto Predss. A portal takes down Panvich as well. And now the Yomi Tanuki are here in force. Turn it right back around onto Predss. But Apreel and Calvìn both low. Ogi taking down the support Ares. Panvich spinning out of danger. Slowed down by the threshold. Locked down into place from iDavy. StreakUp taking out the solo laner. And it is a full-on gas pedal call here from the Yomi Tanuki. But no, the Tanuki too low. Happy to take the steal, a couple of kills, and reclaim at least gold parity.
Pretty good for the Yomi Tanuki there. That Janus ult coming through completely blindsided everyone from the Wargs. And I like the attempt from them. They recognize several people have disengaged. They back to base. But you can't count out the fact that Apreel can get in super early. StreakUp was already there, so couldn't use the ult to get in, which meant that they could use it to get in for the rest of the fight. Calvìn is also tanky enough to cause trouble with the ultimate as well. So a very 50-50 engagement there in the Gold Fury ends up going in favor of the Yomi Tanukis. And then the chase is Niflheim Wargs battling forward as we hold a sec. Pikarino forced to disengage on the ultimate there from a blink from WorstTurttle. But going back again, it's Yomi Tanukis got run at. Then they saw that more members were coming through and were able to just keep chasing it down because StreakUp was able to ult through. OgiBre was able to ult through. Apreel was able to sit in the ultimate to make sure they could re-engage if they needed to. Niflheim Wargs lost the fight and it kind of felt like a gambler's paradox. Well, oh no. They're probably not saying oh no. They're saying words I can't say on cast. But oh no, let's take the fight and try and make it even. Instead, they end up losing even more because of what they'd invested already.
I mean, think about the way the compositions are just drawn up as there's 4 members of the Yomi Tanuki staring down a spider and a guy with a shield. Unstable Vortex going through Arachne. The pillars are dropped. Only catches the Arachne, though, and mostly just used to secure this purple buff. Predss going in aggressively. Predss with a 3-man ultimate. Predss pulling in no one, forcing the beads, forcing the ultimate, and a complete disengage here from the Yomi Tanuki, who do, in fact, grab their purple buff for themselves. That's a lot expended just to take down a relatively minor buff camp.
True, but you did also as well get Apreel's ult, which we saw in that last major fight, enables them to do so much. Pikarino try to get through the wall, but it's just too small. Hawkk has the range to pick that one up. And now we're at this weird even parity state of the game.
It's pick. I mean, the one major objective that was taken in this game was ripped away by a steal, so even that wasn't, like, firm and securable, right? It was still a coin flip. I mean, it's always a coin flip with a Janus on the table. Pyromancer goes down convincingly now to the Niflheim Wargs. who go ahead and reclaim that gold lead. But Predss is dropping low for it. Predss is going to fall for it. Apreel drops low to Panvich, and it's going to be put in the ground, but a big rotation from StreakUp turns it right back around. The King Arthur might be in a spot of trouble here. OgiBre into the ultimate, crashing down under the tier 1 tower. And the clone going to give his life for the Yomi Tanuki. But the Niflheim Wargs pick up a pyro in return.
It's not too bad. Again, it's one of these situations where it's just whoever starts these engagements ends up eating a counterpunch from the other team. In this case, both of these two teams very evenly matched when it comes to their tank strip capabilities, in terms of their sort of peel. It is going to be a situation where if this game keeps going, both of these two teams are going to get fairly numb to the idea, and instead we might find a situation where both teams go, I can't fight you right now because we're so evenly matched, which means you could potentially stall out the game. So I want to make sure that both these two teams are doing what Pikarino is doing. Let's not just look at constantly butting heads. We're just going to end up with a headache. Let's look to try and get a little bit more farm elsewhere. See if we can't play the map rather than just PvP.
This Oni Fury could bust things open here for one of these two squads. Ratatoskr in the air. Janus ult expended. So we've got the steal potential taken off the board. Predss dropping low, forced to back off the entirety of the Niflheim Wargs. Hitting the retreat button here. A lot expended from the Yomi Tanuki, though. Mid lane, jungle, solo, ultimates all down. Relics are still pretty healthy here for the Yomi Tanuki, though. And most importantly for me here, Blur, Predss with that no escape online. A big-time teamfight ultimate could be the game changer here. Neither one of these teams really want to give up space on this Oni Fury. Yomi Tanuki kind of forced to, though, with their lack of resources. There's one more ultimate expended. Doesn't get much from it, though.
Okay.
Niflheim Wargs, for the moment, deterred.
Yeah, I was going to say, Niflheim Wargs are playing this beautifully. They bait in Yomi Tanukis, they get many of the ultimates, they don't take too much damage, so they can just back up and keep pulling Yomi Tanukis back in. That was another ultimate that just got pulled in there, and I don't know why Calvìn felt the need to try and ult there. It's just a case of, what? Yeah, why go for it? But now, again, it's this situation where both these two kind of look at each other and go, okay, well, neither of us can do this. Do you want to just go farm something else? And they both kind of mutually disagree.
My question, though, Blur, was that, like, the Niflheim Wargs had 5 ultimates. Yomi Tanuki had 1, StreakUps, right? And it's not like that's a Kraken or a big teamfight ultimate. I mean, is it, would you call it a misplay to not engage there, to not go in aggressively, to not try to find something or bait out the Gold Fury further? The Niflheim Wargs had such a mechanical advantage in that situation, just resource-wise. It seems like they could have aggressed pretty aggressively on the Yomi Tanuki, and here they are doing it in the middle lane. Why not do it around the Gold Fury?
I agree. I do agree with you on that. I think there could be potential to go for that Fury. However, it is only an Oni Fury, so you have to then think, all right, how are we going to use that to siege? How are we going to use that to be most effective? Instead, realizing it's not necessarily worth it, let's just back up, buy up, and set up for another kind of engagement. They go ahead and grab the beacon for themselves. As you do see, StreakUp goes ahead and clears out this left side tier 1 tower. But in doing so, Niflheim Wargs find themselves a nice window, and this is the kind of thing. If you're gonna get a free Oni Fury, I'll take that happily over having to fight for it.
Absolutely, no more coin flips. The Niflheim Wargs certainly dedicating themselves to only securing confirmable objectives, and there they do. Oni Fury goes down. Gold lead ticks a little bit more in the advantage of the Wargs, but I mean, we're getting close to 20 minutes. XP, 300 gap, gold, sure, 1400. But Blur, for all intensive purposes, I mean, this game is dead even.
Did you say all intensive purposes?
No, for all intents and purposes, man. Or dude, bro, guy.
You're gaslighting me now? I feel like I'm being gaslighted. There's a Twitch clip. I can go back and check this later, but either way, yes.
Production, take care of the clip. Production.
For all intents and purposes, we're going camping here because, honestly, this game is dead even. There was 71 XP difference at some point as Pikarino goes for a bit of a steal there. Clips WorstTurttle, I think, as Wargs do get themselves this Pyromancer. But Yomi Tanuki just uncharacteristically not able to get in because they're trying to let StreakUp push out and use that global rotation presence.
I mean, so far so good, right? StreakUp pushing on this tier 2. Going to be answered, though, here by iDavy with a good defense. So you got to have a Pyromancer. If you're the Niflheim Wargs, at least, you grab a Pyromancer. You don't really lose too much for it. A little bit of pressure on the left side lane, but not enough to really write home about. And sure, map advantage goes the way the Niflheim Wargs, but this is not a comp made for engaging under tower. I mean, the tower defense and the Phoenix defense from the Yomi Tanuki, at least to me, seems pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, worst comes to worst, you drop the bug zapper. Anyone inside the cage has reduced protections. Anyone trying to leave gets slowed and takes a silly amount of damage. And so as a result, you do always have that threat as OgiBre, unable to secure their own buff now, but buys a little bit of time to pull some more members around. WorstTurttle gets very low, cannot take this one-for-one trade, and now he's going to get run down. They will get away, but instead, they're going to go ahead. Apreel will go ahead and go back in on Predss, make sure that kill is taken down. Panvich uses the Excalibur's Wrath to get away. Hawkk, though, tried to be there to just help peel for them. Instead, eats more than half their health.
Ooh, what a good timed Aegis there out of Hawkk, but only delaying death for just a moment as Pikarino puts the final shots into the mid laner. You got to respect Hawkk for trying to peel for the rest of the team there, but just does not work out. The Yomi Tanuki engaging on this Fire Giant now as 5, and only 3 members of the Niflheim Wargs online, Panvich and iDavy. Ultimate's just not going to be helpful in this situation. They're hovering around. They're not giving it up for entirely free, though. iDavy is looking into this, maybe looking up into the ultimate as well. Apreel wrapping around the corner. Apreel taking a ton of damage. iDavy forced into the ultimate just to escape. Meanwhile, Fire Giant still leashed, still being attacked. Panvich still in the Fire Giant pit. Predss takes down Ogi. Apreel is going to receive the Fire Giant buff along with the rest of the Yomi Tanuki, and now it's a full-on escape button here from Tanuki. Only lose Ogi for it. You calling that a win, Blur?
I mean, losing both of your front line really does hurt, especially when Ogi was trying to push out members. It felt a little bit like no one quite knew how they wanted to do this. Are they going to burst the Fire Giant? No, we can bait them in and take a fight. Okay, we can do that. Wait, now they're here. Let's burst it now and then take the fight after. And then Ogi goes deep to push people out. They follow up with the Ratatoskr as well. Then Rat dips back. And as a result, they end up in some awkward situations where you lose both frontline members. It's not the worst. You do still get the Fire Giant on your damage dealers for the structures, which is good. It's just going to be a little bit of time before they can do so. And that, for me, is the big one, is the fact that you can't immediately gas pedal in with this Fire Giant. It's now, we got to wait, we got to back up, we've got to get everyone ready, and then we can siege, rather than having everyone just back up, buy up, push down a lane. But that said, looking at it from the other side for Niflheim Wargs, it is very nice for them because it's just a stopgap for them. It wastes time on Fire Giant, and that's the best thing you could do. It's why we see so many times now we have teams pushing up other lanes and then sieging one of them, because it wastes time on Fire trying to get people to push up the other lanes.
So, Blur, put yourself in the position of the Niflheim Wargs right now.
All right.
What's going to be the next step to try to draw this back? I mean, the Niflheim Wargs got a gold lead, looking pretty good in XP, got a lead in a couple lanes there. I mean, we're approaching level 20, so that's going to become less and less important. But are you just playing kind of the stalemate game and allowing Fire Giant to fall off the Yomi Tanuki and then trying to find the next objective on the map? Are you actually getting aggressive and fighting back into the Chaos Squad? What's the next, macro game call here from the Wargs?
I think macro is obviously not lose, but how you now not lose is a case of you quick scan of the map. Right lane, sweet. That's already in our favor. We don't got to worry about it. Beacons coming up. How important is that to us? Well, it will get the Titans coming down. So if either team grabs it, it's going to be pushing into, I believe, either mid or solo or duo. It's going to go into one of 3 lanes. I can't tell which one at this point in time. But give up this Gold Fury. It's a Gold Fury. We're not too worried about it. We can step up and waste a little bit of their time, see if they want to fight us, because, again, waste that Fire Giant time. Mid and solo are pushed up. The only lane they have is left side, so we've not got to worry about it too much. And I love what we're seeing here. Predss just looking to try and pull beads.
And Calvìn dropping low before the fight even really kicks off. iDavy up in the air, shredding through the support. OgiBre is able to get up into the cloud and able to dash away as well. I mean, the Niflheim Wargs stepping up, deleting Calvìn, and now grabbing a Gold Fury for themselves.
And that's a really good look for the Niflheim Wargs. What starts off as just Predss grabbing beads is, all right, Calvin's getting pulled. All right, Calvin's getting burnt. All right, Calvin's getting shredded. Calvìn is out of that engagement, which is huge for them. Again, another 4v5 situation. Fire Giant now pretty much irrelevant. The beacon being picked up from the Niflheim Wargs means that at worst, they don't have to worry about their Titan being taken, because they've got to deal with that one. So it is going down into the solo side, which is pretty good for them. But all things considered, Niflheim Wargs have completely negated the fact that there's a fire giant right now.
So let's flip around the question I just asked you, right? Now that you're the
Right.
Yomi Tanuki, you grab a fire giant for yourselves, right? You find a death, you have to back, whatever. You now try to take a look at the Gold Fury. Doesn't go your way either. So now kind of back-to-back engagements. In one of them, you get the objective. One of them, you don't. But you're clearly not drawing away, right? You're clearly not finding a substantial lead enough where you can kind of just face roll the opponent team. You just have stuff to be tactical and strategic with it.
Yep.
What is the Yomi Tanuki's next step? What is their next engagement to make sure the Niflheim Wargs aren't finding small wins, small objectives, and then steamrolling it into something bigger?
Well, again, I think for the Yomi Tanuki, the first thing they're saying is, oh, bother, we just lost that Gold Fury. Again, I'm paraphrasing because I can't say the words they would likely use for broadcast. But for Calvin at this point, it was a case of just not having the beads up. I really think if they can just pick up an absolution, like this is, if you talk to Kaizo about the Ganesh Ares matchup, you will hear a 15-minute thesis explaining the metaphysics of why absolution is so good and why Ares is countered so hard by it. It's the fact that it would give them that option. Everyone on this team has beads. Now imagine if they had another set of beads every 45 seconds that they can all effectively use. Or even if Calvin just has to use it, at least it's popping ult for ult and you can trade the cooldowns effectively for them. But now they have to rethink the situation. So in terms of where they're looking next, it's dealing with these Titans. It's the first thing Niflheim Wargs are doing. You can answer that back. It also puts you around for the Fire Giant. So if any major engagement pops out, you can also be around for that. But you need to have vision on where everyone is, especially someone like WorstTurttle. This late into the game, they are a shredder build, and they have the potential to delete members incredibly quickly. And if they don't shred you down, they're burning your beads, which means Predss gets to be able to shred you down by pulling you back into the rest of the team fight. These beads are the most essential thing they have, and I'm very surprised that no one has actually bothered to upgrade them yet.
Titans marching down the right-hand lane. Chaos Titan already falling to the Niflheim Wargs, who are pushing their way forward. Fire Giant has fallen off the Yomi Tanuki at this point. So it's just a 6v5 here. Oh, okay. My goodness, Predss with a dream ultimate. Shredding beads, shredding ultimates. Apreel does go in on the Arachne. Forces ult for ult there. Beats still online here for the enemy jungler in the Niflheim Wargs. Order Titan taken down, but just what a dream ultimate there from Predss. Just ripping through any ultimates. Sure, we got 4 pairs of beads online, but I mean, just you take out every single ultimate from the Tanuki and there is no reprisal.
And look at that. 2 ults used. Niflheim Wargs burn Predss ults and WorstTurttle, so that when Apreel lands from their ult, WorstTurttle isn't picked off. All 5 ults from Yomi Tanuki's for CC immunity, for defensive peel, and you still had to burn a set of beads from Calvin. This is what Predss is looking to try and do, and now Yomi Tanuki's do not want to step up to a fight for another 45 to 90 seconds at best, which means Niflheim Wargs now want to try and start that. Instead of going for the actual Fire Giant, though, they're still seeing if they can get a pick. They don't want to let this go too easily because there are still beads available. There are still blinks available, as Pikarino also one of the ones with blink, but up into the sky goes the rat. They're going to try and push them off of fire.
And that's scary onto Hawkk. That's got to be your target. #1 damage in the game. Goes down to the combination of the Yomi Tanuki. Apreel turned right back around, though. Davey takes out the Rat. Predss with another great ultimate, stripping away even more CC immunity from the Yomi Tanuki, but just not enough damage done onto the Chaos Squad, who are still charging forward, relatively healthy here, locking down Panvich. StreakUp still at 98% HP. Call it WorstTurttle wrapping around the back, but caught now between 3 members of the Tanuki and just decimated by StreakUp with a full build Chernobog. And in the blink of an eye, Blur, 3 members of the Niflheim Wargs taken down, and a relatively healthy Yomi Tanuki with a secure online in Pikarino, looking at the Pyromancer, maybe even the Fire Giant.
And that, to me, is just a problem. WorstTurttle, you're not a Kali. Like, if that's a Kali in that situation, as long as you can pop your ult, you get those 3 kills. Because you just literally cannot be killed, and you get to kill them. The problem with this is this Arachne was not involved at all. Trying to find windows in, but everyone from Yomi Tanuki's was grouped up. We saw Predss get another 3-man ultimate. but it gets beats. Then the ones who do get pulled in, there is no damage available to them. Hawkk immediately just dumpstered on by apreel, by OgiBre. I mean, they're literally dumpster diving at this point.
So
It's just, I don't care how I die as long as I take out Hawkk, because Hawk's damage is where everything is happening right now. I wouldn't be surprised if, honestly, Hawk's last item is like a defensive item, a spirit robe, a mantle of discord, or hell, even just go and play like Paul and we'll get a breastplate of valor. You need to stop yourself being dove, or someone from the Wargs needs to help keep you alive. But right now, with Fire Giant being pulled, Predss is just trying to make sure a fight goes on so fire doesn't get stolen.
Oh, but fire is taken away there. Who secured it? It's going to be the Yomi Tanuki putting the finishing touches on that objective. And once again, Hawkk falling so low in the back line, but not enough damage out from the Yomi Tanuki to take down the middle laner. Hawkk actually turns it back around onto StreakUp, one of the key members who chased out the Niflheim Wargs in the last engagement. Pikarino falls to WorstTurttle, who, I mean, just chunking here at 29 minutes into this game. So sure, the Yomi Tanuki, they grab a Fire Giant, but they're going to lose 2, they're going to lose 3 for it in return, and the Niflheim Wargs get the map for the next 50 seconds.
Very nicely done. And this is exactly what Arachne needs to do. Arachne, like Nemesis, like Mercury, like any of these late game junglers, I think Wukong, Kali, you cannot 1v1 them. They are designed to 1v1 you and beat you in these 1v1s. You cannot be left alone. I feel like that's part of the reason why Pikarino has this blink, is actually to get away from WorstTurttle in some of these situations. You get through a wall, buy yourself some time, blink through again. It's all to get to disengage from what WorstTurttle does. And WorstTurtle is able to just pull away 2 members at a time. Members get picked apart from Yomi Tanuki. So now, again, Fire Giant, pretty much irrelevant for the Yomi Tanukis here. Thankfully, it was not an enhanced Fire Giant, but it is now enhanced for the next one here. And you can see there on the power play difference, minus 2,000 gold. Yomi Tanuki's got fire and have lost gold for doing so here. And with Niflheim Wargs now with, what, they got 3 runic bombs as well. If they can get to one of these tier 2 towers, that's going to be gone as well. And another fight like that, and we're looking at Phoenixes, we're looking at potential end calls here.
One more team fight, absolutely. You lose a couple, and all of a sudden the Titan becomes a spectacle on the menu here for either one of these 2 squads who are pretty much full built out. Looking at Calvìn, though. Look at that starter item. It's been upgraded.
Oh, I like it. I do like it. It's a good bit of extra protection for everyone, a little bit of compassion. Won't be shown to members of the Niflheim Wargs, but again, it's so nice just making everyone else feel that little bit tankier. It's very nice. I do also want to point out, I called it with Hawks as, my goodness, Pikarino. Yeah, Pikarino cannot fight WorstTurttle.
Nope. Absolutely not. Like, 0% potential. Anyone can fight WorstTurttle. I mean, apreel can't, Pikarino can't. Nobody can 1v1 this late game Arachne now. Tier 2 is going to fall in the middle lane. That opens up the mid lane Phoenix for more aggression on the side of the Niflheim Wargs. Got a couple tier 2s on either side of the lanes, though. Right lane and left lane. That right one is looking like a stiff breeze might blow it down here. Calvìn taking a ton of damage to kick things off here in the middle lane. Dunking in his apreel onto Davy, forces out the beads. Here comes Predss with another 4-man yoink. Can't keep doing this. Hawkk sending out the barrels onto Calvìn. Ogi takes out Predss, though, in return, and the Yomi Tanuki escaping with such low HP, but the Niflheim Wargs not able to capitalize on another wonderful ultimate from their support. Just an unfortunate amount of damage spread out too lightly among the Tanuki.
And look at the graveyard of relics that are the Yomi Tanukis. All the beads are gone. Most of the defensive relics are gone. Predss falls, but when Predss respawns, they're still a target here. And an interesting choice there to use the entangling sprint, or root boot as it's more commonly known, rooting people in place, then just walking further forward to be able to go for more pulls. If it wasn't for the fact that Calvìn had silenced, entangling wings, there we go, root boot, good old name. If it wasn't for the fact that Calvìn had silenced, that would have gone horrifically badly, because Predss would have been able to get that out on even more members, even more troubles would have occurred. And so as a result, Niflheim Wargs get just about even kill, a pseudo TKO for 1 in that situation. But for the fact that it is 7,000 gold down, Yomi Tanukis don't feel like that, and they've recognized that this late into the game, everyone's pretty much full build. We've got some recipes we need to fix up, but the recipes still do a decent enough job this late into the game. Sure, would Pikarino like a Soul Reaver right now? Yeah, who wouldn't want a Soul Reaver as your mage? But the fact that they've got extra cooldown also doesn't hurt. Would Calvìn like more cooldown or just more tanky stats? Sure, but he's getting that anyway from this recipe, so it's not the worst thing in the world. And now we're pretty much at an even kill situation. Fire Giant Dance, it's coming up shortly, and there isn't only Fury, so whether or not we see maybe StreakUp wants to try and, I'll go solo that, then I'll over. Maybe WorstTurttle does the same idea. This is where it's now a case of playing the map, finding little ways to get little advantages when Fire Giant is on the table, because everyone else right now knows that Fire Giant is what the other team is wanting.
Wards are going to be big here. Panvich cut out on the Fire Giant pit. Could have been an opportunity here for the Tanuki. Ooh, Portal's going to connect. And the Unstable Vortex at 34 minutes is just, it's going to end lives. That was a King Arthur, too. That was like a tanky, built, full build, solo lane, complete defense King Arthur. Imagine what that would do to WorstTurttle. This Phoenix is gone. It is absolutely gone here as WorstTurttle has walked in with a firebomb and taken out the middle lane Phoenix for absolute free. The Yomi Tanuki have nothing to answer with. And the Niflheim Wargs, they say, hey, grab a Phoenix, you spread the map out a little bit there, you might as well kick off the Fire Giant as well. It's WorstTurtle versus Ogi. Gets locked down, though. What a great there from Calvìn to allow Ogi to escape through the portal. But now Calvìn, in the worst place possible, is going to be yanked back in. No, beads were good enough. WorstTurtle takes down Apreel, though. Ultimate's still online for the Ratatoskr. That is heartbreaking for the Yomi Tanuki. It's turned back around, a 1-for-1 onto Hawkk, though. That is a key target in these fights. Calvìn still in the fray. Damage. Ogi coming up big for the Yomi Tanuki. Pikarino escaping as well. iDavy takes down one. Ogi with a 3-piece for the Yomi Tanuki. Coming up huge. Pikarino playing the map as well. And it's going to be a straight 3-for-3 even trade, but not really, Blur, because that middle lane Phoenix still down.
It is, and I thought Niflheim Wargs, they did exactly what I mentioned. Finding small ways to get advantages when Fire Giant's on the table. Get that mid Phoenix, pull someone back out from there, and then potentially to try and take the rest of the fight. Unfortunately, Wargs get this weird situation where they're like, WorstTurttle fights OgiBre, so everyone starts moving over towards that, and then this weird fight spills out, and then everyone looks at Pikarino, who's super low, and Wargs can't find that kill. Like, Wargs really just need to focus down, like, don't get overexcited for the potential of these kills. Keep it calm and keep the calms. Keep the calms calm is the old expression from the energy days. Keep your decision making quick and simple. We got mid Phoenix. Do we need to get anything more? No. Let's get ourselves back to neutral. Let's press the advantage again at fire. Let's press the advantage elsewhere. We've got an advantage already. Let's not now try and immediately rush into a team fight, because as we saw there, it just ends up in a stalemate.
Blur, we saw what happens when Hawkk goes down early in the fight, too. That is so much damage taken off the table. Every time we've seen the Yomi Tanuki take a team fight or at least come out even, Hawkk goes down early.
And as a result, we can see Hawkk has now decided, hey, last item, if I die in 1 CC and a next ability, giving yourself that Spirit Robe gets a little bit more CDR, which the Raijin will enjoy, but also as well, just that protection and mitigation. Keeping them alive and keeping them up is going to be so important, because like you said, if they're dying super quickly in these engagements, if that enables you to just get off one more ability, one more Raiju, one more Thunder Crash, something else, that could be the difference between winning and losing this entire game at this point in time. But now we've got 4 bombs available for the Niflheim Wargs with these runic bombs. Mid Phoenix, not the most difficult to deal with. A lot of junglers do hover around mid lane or when this Fire Giant dance comes out, but it kind of feels like both of these two teams are looking at this going, okay, Fire Giant's up, but we don't want a Fire Giant dance, but we don't want to not be near the Fire Giant, so they're kind of hiding around slightly away from it, trying to avoid poke, because Predss has got a fantastic position here, but the silence is going to slow him down a bit.
Could be turned around here by the Yomi Tanuki. A bunch of ultimates burned here to kick things off. Calvìn pulled in, but no follow-up yet from the Niflheim Wargs. StreakUp locked down, and here comes apreel with a knockup. Pikarino, unstable. Vortex takes out the jungler. No one-on-one for you, Arachne. OgiBre charging forward onto iDavy, who's forced into the air as well, spitting out that poison, layering it on the Yomi Tanuki. Panvich forcing away 4 members of the Chaos Squad. iDavy is still very healthy, still happy to move forward here. The rest of the Niflheim Wargs say, easy, Davey, easy. Now the Yomi Tanuki forced to back off. Only WorstTurttle falling, though. Only 1 lost for the Niflheim Wargs, and that's going to be a power play for the next 35 seconds. Allow the Yomi Tanuki to reposition and re-engage.
They may be able to, but with Hawkk still available, Davy still available, and both front lines still up, Yomi Tanuki have to go ahead and clear out this mid-Phoenix pressure that's going towards them. The ward coverage for Niflheim Wargs is good into the pit, but keep an eye on Pikarino. Pikarino is now playing this sort of magical Loki, I've always thought of Janus in the late game. Well, it's kind of how you play it.
Sure,
you show up to a team fight, do 700 damage in one ability, and then disappear, and then do it again 2 seconds later. That's the whole thing. Like, the entire kit of Janus is built around making your 2 do as much damage as possible. So when it's your only main damage ability, you kind of got to play around that cooldown. Now we can see Fire Giants getting low. Niflheim Wargs looking for a steal.
Predss falling low as well, just like the Fire Giant. StreakUp putting down the support there. As Fire Giant's going to be picked up here by the Yomi Tanuki. Panvich looking quite unhealthy as well. Calvìn with the lockdown. It's just going to be a matter of who puts the finishing touches on the solo laner. Going to be Pikarino. Davy using the beads preemptively there, able to force their way out, but locked between a rock and a hard place, forced into the air, layering out a little bit more toxicity there. 4 or 5 members of the Yomi Tanuki now with Fire Giant wrapped around their waist. Sure, a couple of them looking a little bit worse for the wear here. But that tier 2 tower isn't going to take itself down. So the Yomi Tanuki pressing forward, a 3v5 for the next 30 seconds until Predss comes back online with that game-changing no-escape ultimate. Tier 2 tower going to fall in a blink of an eye. Right side, Firebird going to be the next on the menu here for the Yomi Tanuki. Hawkk is going to have to come up big in this team fight. Hawkk is going to be locked down, but a good beats. Able to get away. apreel over the top there, happen off Yggdrasil. Taking down the middle laner. And now it's going to be a 3v5 still for the next minute as Hawkk's going to be in the ground.
It's a rough look now because, yeah, Hawkk was the only target who could put out a huge amount of damage, and immediately they're the first person visible, they are the first person CC'd, they are the first person dead. Phoenix on the right-hand side. I said it was going to be rough for the Niflheim Wargs. Sure, Davy can clear the wave, but Yomi Tanuki will just walk in anyway, and that's exactly what they did. Now, mid-Phoenix ends up falling down. This gold lead is going to be collapsed down on by the Yomi Tanukis now, and to be perfectly honest, get your drinks ready. The gold doesn't matter anymore with that late into the game, where it's basically 3k pots of the next big item spike, as Hawkk actually goes ahead and sells their spirit robe, going for that mantle of discord, which used to be called Cloak of Unrelenting Sorrow, and honestly, it kind of feels like Hawkk is in that situation. Every fight he shows up to, he is CC'd and killed immediately. That is just unrelenting sorrow.
It's just a core damage dealer here for the Niflheim Wargs. And you take out WorstTurttle early, can't wrap around and kill Pikarino or apreel, right? That's what happened in the last one. You take out Hawkk, and all of a sudden that backline damage, you know, the over-the-top downtown dunk, that's gone too. And then what do you have left over? Sure, Panvich and Predss like creating some havoc, and iDavy sending out auto attacks, but it's WorstTurttle, it's Hawkk. The Yomi Tanuki have kind of figured out the game plan of the Niflheim Wargs. They've unraveled the strategy. They're targeting the appropriate targets, and they're just winning. I mean, it's A plus B equals C.
It's a pretty good look for them as now Yomi Tanuki's looking for that last Phoenix. They played this well. They played this safe. Could they have gone for to try and push down mid Phoenix as well? Sure. But instead they recognize, hey, let's just back up. Let's buy up. Let's set up for this left side Phoenix. There's a beacon if things go horribly wrong, but we still got this Fire Giant. We want to push in aggressively, and we want to make that as most impactful as possible. Now, the Wargs do have all 5 members up, and with some 3k pots on their way, WorstTurttle notably one, and StreakUp with ones as well, it pretty much falls to clearing this wave. If this wave gets in, or these members get in, there's going to be trouble, as Hawkk, again, is the focus.
And fallen down goes the Raijin, already a 4v5. Predss pulling in Calvìn, but with 0 follow-up here from the Niflheim Wargs. What is the point? Davy forced out into the ultimate as well. Apreel able to escape, Pikarino able to escape, WorstTurttle goes down. You can't 1v5 the entire world. Niflheim Wargs are in a brutal spot here with both side lanes being exposed. Only the middle lane Phoenix left to defend this Order Titan.
All right.
It's Predss, it's Davy, and it's Panvich somehow looking to cook up a miracle defense here in game number 3. Final game of this 3-game set. The Yomi Tanuki and Wargs have taken it to 3. And the Yomi Tanuki are looking to put a cap on this set. Predss falling low. Final shots coming out. StreakUp is on a killing spree. Able to walk out as Panvich for the moment. Davy does take down StreakUp. So the ADC for the Yomi Tanuki falls. But you know what else is going to fall, Blur? It's going to be the Order Titan. The Yomi Tanuki take down game number 3 over the Niflheim Wargs in 43 minutes.
Very nicely played there at the end. And I like the fact they don't rush. They go to mid Phoenix because they know, hey, we've got minions coming into the base. They're going to start doing chip damage. Someone's going to have to pay attention. Pikarino slips off to the left-hand side. As soon as anyone else shows up, the whole fight goes. But it's all because Hawkk is the linchpin. From the moment that falls over on the left-hand Phoenix, the rest of the team crumbled.
We know, Blur, I'm sad we didn't get to see game number 2, but I think game number 3 more than made up for it. The Yomi Tanuki 2-1 over the Niflheim Wargs here in Phase 2 of the Smite Challenger Circuit. That's going to do it for us here at the SCC. Make sure to stick around for some SPL action later. For Blur, for production, for everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dimes. Make sure to stay hydrated. Catch you later.